live. All right, everybody. We are tuned in. It's Tuesday night, and I am absolutely excited to tell you guys that we are getting closer and closer to going racing. It is just like a matter of a little more than a week now. I can't stand it. I mean, this weekend I'm actually headed off to Eddyville, Iowa for an appearance. I'm going to the Night of Fire at Eddyville Raceway. That is going to be an absolute blast. But I got to tell you, I'm super excited, and I'm going to get really prepared for this. Hailing from Norco, California, weighing in at 185 pounds, driver of the Infinite Hero Dodge, two-time champion Jack Beckman is with us tonight. And bam, you should be showing up on the screen here any moment. Jack, thanks for joining us tonight. We call it the DNC show. It's the Donna and Clay show, but kind of like Jenna, Donna prefers to just kind of like let us do our thing because we talk so much anyway. She figures, you know, she's actually sitting right over here. But anyway,
Donna, I'm sorry. And yeah, Clay apologized to Jenna too. I hyped this. I said the two quietest drivers in drag racing are going to have a talk here. So I'm jealous. So you're going to be at a drag strip this weekend.
I am. There is.
You know, I'm going to be in the backyard. Yeah, mine's called the Lawnmower Under Fire this weekend. That's what I get to do.
I'm very lucky there. Me and Donna have been married going on how many?
35.
35 years. And I probably have only cut the grass 35 times in those 35 years.
I'd say it's more like 10.
More like 10, she says.
So you have the same factor that my wife and I have. Divide by 3.5. So I didn't realize in Tennessee that you could marry girls that were 6 years old. You like that, huh, Donna?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
You're welcome,
yeah, So, Jack, before we kind of get off in some of the stuff I want to ask you about, what has life been like for you since we left Gainesville? Kind of what's been going on with Jack and Jenna and the kids and this whole quarantine deal? What's Jack been up to?
So let's work it backwards. When you just said, wow, we're getting ready to go back to drag racing, I had a little bit of a panic attack there. And it's a little bit like when you were a kid and you had summer vacation and it seemed like it was lasting forever and ever. And then all of a sudden, school's going to start the next day. And obviously, we can't wait to get back in the race cars. But it's funny. I've never been out of a race car this long since I made my first trip down the quarter mile in '86. And actually, that might be a lie. Maybe in '87 or '8, I might have been out of a car that long while I was still in the Air Force, but not in the last 30 years. And then all of a sudden, you think, oh my God, I got to get back in the car in a week and a half. And I'm not even sure I remember how to warm the car up. So all right, so let's back up to February, March. My kids are 13 and my daughter's 8, soon to be 9. And they have not been able to go do hockey. My son was already homeschooled, so this wasn't a big change for him. For my daughter, it was. And you roll with the punches. I mean, everybody makes the best out of it. We can't complain. Knock on wood, we've all been healthy. And you'd think I'd have been bored, but I'm not, because I got started on this project. What you're looking at here is the first issue of Drag News from March 4th, 1955. And my buddy gave me his whole collection. And I have spent 4 months researching, interviewing, calling legends, taking notes. This is all my notes just on the Drag News I've read so far. And that's about 30 full sheets of legal pad. And then I'm converting it into a history video series. So it's been a rabbit hole that no other time in my life could I have gone down this. Sometimes I think I bit off more than I can chew. But Clay, it's been so unbelievably rewarding. Like talking on the phone with Don Garlitz, Don Perdome, Roland Leong. How about this? On this first issue, this is 1955, okay? Listed here as winning a race February 20th, 1955 at Santa Ana is Gene Adams, who's a Hall of Fame crew chief. I called Gene last week and had a 20-minute conversation with him just to go over some of the details that I needed to put together my last piece. It's been awesome.
And you've been gathering these. We actually talked a little bit earlier today, and you are down to like not a lot of those that you're missing. Drag News has been around forever, and you're only missing just a few issues.
Yeah. It goes from March 4th, 1955, all the way to June of 1978, and I'm missing one issue from 55 to 70. And then I got a lot of holes in the 70s issues. I'm probably missing a total of about 120. And so Don Hampton Superchargers, the same Don Hampton that in 1959 beat Don Garlitz in the first round of the Bakersfield March meet, that Don Hampton said, come get my whole collection. I loaded my truck up. Now, mind you, I'd already sorted through 22 boxes of what my friend gave me, which was a fairly complete and substantial collection. Hampton's was everything. It was Carcraft, Hot Rodder, Popular Hot Rodding, Drag News, National Dragster, and Jenna's pulling her hair out. Like, my wife is OCD, and everything is neat. And the garage is just exploded with old car publications. And so I'm sorting them by publication, by year, by month, and then into order here. And I'm on the phone with Bob Fry once or twice a week, Brett Kepner. These are the encyclopedias of drag racing. I talked to Louis Bloom today. Bill Burgess gave me access to some of their archives at National Dragster. So not only am I talking to the legends from the driving aspect, but the legends from the announcing, research, historical perspective here. It's been more than a pinch me moment for a guy that's had more pinch me moments than I probably deserve.
So I'm sitting here drawing a blank. You know, I'm good friends with David Freiberger, and he posted a couple of weeks ago, and I cannot think of the name of the company, but you can go to them and find back issues. Obviously, he's been the editor of Hot Rod Magazine and Carcraft, all those sort of things. But I'll have to go back and look. But there is a company out there that is apparently got a pretty substantial, and you can go and buy those back issues.
And they know what they have. And listen, like, I am missing the July 1957 Hot Rod issue. I want to get into Hot Rod in a second. So I went on there and looked, and it's not cheap to get that issue. So I really got to think, how badly do I need this? And how badly do I want to upset my wife about this?
So it's funny, we're sitting here talking about magazines, and Donna's going to probably either kill me or start laughing. So over the past few years, we've lost my parents, and they literally lived like 1,000 feet that way. Like, I can just walk right there. So we've been, during this quarantine for us, we've been kind of going through, myself, Donna, and my sisters, and cleaning things out. You know, my parents were near 80 years old, so they had a lot of stuff. And so one of the things that my daddy collected that we do not know what to do with is Playboy magazines. And we literally have...
Hold on, I'm trying not to smile here, Clay. Did you want my home address? Is that what you're saying?
Yes. And it's like, what do we do with them? But he literally has, I don't want to say the complete collection, but he's got hundreds and hundreds of them, and some of them dating back to the 50s. And I know some of those things can be worth big money according to who was on the cover. You know, and so it's funny, a lot of, you know, we grew up in a little grocery store, very, very Christian-oriented family. And it's funny, people like, does it bother you that your dad had Playboys? I'm like, no, because they weren't hidden from us. You know, every month when they came in, it was like a family gathering, not to go through and look at the centerfold, mind you, but to find the
you read the articles. Yeah,
yes,
you and your dad are the only two men in America. You know, Donna, somehow when Clay said you want to come on and talk about stuff for an hour, I never thought within 10 minutes we'd be going to Playboy. So you asked what you should do with them, Clay. Right? You're asking me? Now, how old are you?
50. I'm same age as you, buddy. We're old.
Sell them. 50-year-old men don't need to look at Playboy.
Come here. Donna's trying to say something here.
Yes, ma'am.
He did this to me when we had to go meet with my preacher before we got married too.
Yeah, I talked about the Playboys with her preacher.
And I about went under the desk.
Yeah, she started sliding down.
I was like, oh, shut up.
So obviously it hasn't negatively impacted your marriage, so there's something to be said. You know, I'm not good on any of this Facebook or social program, but I can see the streams are coming in by the hundreds the moment you mentioned Playboy.
and people will probably be shocked that I even did that. But I mean, it's just part of our family, you know. It's one of those things.
I guess the Beckmans were a little on the slow side. We collected Hot Rod magazine. Okay, so this is Hot Rod August of 1950, and this was my dad's first Hot Rod magazine. My grandpa bought it for him when they were on a vacation in Florida. And the coolest thing is 70 years to the month, 70 years later in Hot Rod magazine, I guess I should have been a little more prepared for this, is my car, my first car, made it into Hot Rod magazine. And so I have got my dad's first one, and then 70 years later, the car that he bought when I was 13 and I bought from him when I was 15 is in Hot Rod. I thought that was pretty cool. By the way, Don, I'm getting us off the Playboy topic.
That is very cool. You know, as car guys, and me and you both certainly are car guys, there's something special about being in Hot Rod magazine. I haven't had a car in there. The Top Fuel car's been in there. They've done some features, and those are like super special. I mean, Hot Rod, you know, I mean, even before I was into drag racing, which I always have been, but before I can remember going to a drag race, really, I remember having Hot Rod magazines. It's just something cool about that. And for your car to be featured in there, and it's your first car, that's pretty freaking cool.
Well, and the other thing is, Popular Hot Rod and Carcraft, Super Chevy, none of those are available in print anymore. The last couple of them just went the way of the dodo. You can see them in electronic media, but you can't physically hold one in your hand. Hot Rod is the last one for muscle cars. And no, to have your car featured in there, that's pretty cool. Like, I have a lot of never in my wildest dream moments. And I think you're very much like that. You're a very down-to-earth guy, hardworking. Never in my wildest dreams, I think I'd be getting a paycheck to drive a Nitro Car. And my car's in Hot Rod magazine.
Yes, it's crazy. So since you bring that up, without giving us your whole life story, how?
Because we know you can talk.
We know you're like me. Donna's like, you know, this could be dangerous, you two being on here together.
Donna, do you want to get his knife out of my back and we'll clean that and return that later?
Kind of give us the Reader's Digest version. How did you end up in a Nitro Car?
So
for me, it was, you know, forklift, bracket racing. Met a guy named Peter Lehman. That's my extreme short version. But kind of how did Jack end up there?
Well, my dad was a hot rodder. Moved from Maryland to California in '62. Interviewed with all these hot rod companies. Actually interviewed with Ray Brock at Hot Rod Magazine. And wound up taking a job at Lockheed for a lot more money working on aircraft. He met my mom cruising Van Nuys Boulevard. So, I mean, I guess it was in the genes. My mom's brother took my brother and I to the races. My Uncle John is an encyclopedia drag racer. The man is scary smart on that stuff. And then, so it was natural. I started racing my El Camino, made my first run at Lubbock Dragway in 1986 when I was still in the Air Force. Still have the car to this day. Started driving everything else that I could, and then eventually I met Roger and Karen Comstock. I had already gone and got my top alcohol license at the Frank Hawley School. I wound up putting my job in teaching full-time there. Roger and Karen were hardcore racers. Karen had gone through cancer. Roger understood that. He says, listen, if we're going to do this, we need to do this now. And I got in a Top Fuel car in 2005. And then I thought I was done, Clay. Honest to God, I thought those 12 races I ran in 2005 was my dream come true. I had gone through cancer. I lived it. And now it was time to go back to work and just be a productive citizen, you know. And then the call from Schumacher came in summer of 2006. And he said, you guys have any interest in a funny car? I'm like, yes, over here, please. And the rest is history.
So the 12 races you run, whose equipment was that? And I do remember, but I'm asking this.
Yeah, Dexter Tuttle's Top Fuel car. So it said Menards and MTS. MTS was Mail Terminal Services. That's Roger and Karen Comstock. And the best we did is we went to the semifinals at, I believe it was Englishtown that year. And we beat Scott Coletta in the second round. And I thought that was pretty cool. I got to race Scott Coletta in a Top Fuel car and a funny car. That's pretty special.
That is cool. And the reason I say I know who it is because me and you both have that in common. We both drove a car for Dexter Tuttle. absolute wonderful guy. I mean, that dude he has got a heart of gold. He loves it, and he's got a pretty serious business that he does well with. So he can't do it all the time, but what a great guy. Dexter kind of helped me out one year when I was basically had no home and nowhere to go, and he jumped in there and kept me out there for a year or two.
Well, and look, I drive for a super team, and I love it. And working for Don Schumacher is fantastic because he gives you the best equipment. But this sport needs all those Dexter Tuttles and the other independents that come out and run. That's what really keeps the flavor of the sport alive and keeps the fields full.
No doubt about it. So Jack, you've kind of mentioned it a couple times. You joined the Air Force. What prompted that decision?
I dropped out of high school, and I was working at Harbor Freight Tools for $5.25 an hour, and I didn't want to unload trucks for the rest of my life. And I just looked at my options, and I went and I talked to the Army recruiter, and I said, I want to be a mechanic. And then I went and talked to the Air Force recruiter, and he said, I can't take you. You didn't graduate high school. And I went and talked to the Navy recruiter. He had me take the test, and I had an appointment with the Marine recruiter. He was in the same office with the Air Force recruiter. And as I walked in, the Air Force recruiter said, I just got your test results. You scored high enough, I can get you in. So I never did talk to the Marine recruiter.
So how many years were you in the Air Force?
1,461 days, but who's counting? That's 4 full years. And I'm glad I got out, and it's the best decision I ever made was going in. Literally changed my life for the better in so many ways.
So in May of 2013, Sergeant Beckman was presented the Wall of Achievers in Montgomery, Alabama.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. One of my fellow airmen, Bruce Stansel, who stayed in, we met each other when we were each 18 or 19, and he retired as a master sergeant after 23 years, and we lost touch with each other for a good 10 years. He was a hardcore NASCAR fan. He was reading some paper or something, came across my name, found out it was the same Jack Beckman. And after we had reunited for a couple of years, he'd come to several races. He submitted me for that. I didn't even know that he did it. And it's pretty cool. It's at Maxwell Gunter Air Force Base, and there's not a whole lot of people on that wall. And it's people who are all enlisted Air Force that have contributed, whether while in or after serving.
So let me just list some of the people on that wall. George W. Bush, Chuck Yeager, Johnny Cash, Gene Autry, Flip Wilson, and Jack Beckman. Buddy, that's a pretty serious company. I mean, that's a pretty big deal. And I didn't know this. And me and you've been buddies for a long time. And somehow I didn't know this, but it's amazing what you can find on Google. I mean, did you actually go to and receive an award, or how did that?
I actually went out there and gave a speech, and it got to work out nicely. I just won the world championship. So, I mean, things dovetailed well. But, Clay, it's another one of those just pinch me moments. Like, I don't deserve to be here. I think I was a completely average airman. In fact, I never even got my good conduct medal because I had 3 tickets, all off base. I never did anything wrong on base, but they said, that's not cool to go off base and get a speeding ticket. So I literally never got a good conduct medal. Now, I wasn't the bad airman. I did my job. I worked midnight to 7, and I thought I did all right. But I don't think I've shined in any particular way. After I got out, I do a lot of visits to VA hospitals, to military hospitals, and I've just got a chance to go in and thank the veterans for what they do. And I got a ride in an F-16 in one of the Thunderbirds. Like, I thought, God, wow. I tell people it is the best 21 minutes of my life. The problem is the flight lasted for an hour. The next 39 minutes sucked. Like, I wanted to pull the eject handle, get out of it. This guy is flipping that plane around, doing stuff that you would never dream of at a carnival. But it was a once-in-a-lifetime deal for me.
Oh yeah, I've been fortunate enough to do the same as well, and I had a blast. And I tell people, they ask you and I both about the G's and this, that, and other, and and I tell people, straight line afterburner and all that, it was boring. But when they turn, now that's a whole different situation. But to me, one of the coolest things, and we could tell stories about riding with the Thunderbirds forever, is the amount of vision that you have sitting in those airplanes. I mean, you think about riding in a commercial airliner, you got a little small window, or even if you're lucky enough to ride in a private jet, you got a little bigger window. But sitting in the cockpit of one of those F-16s, that is unbelievable.
Well, and to put in perspective, so you wear a G-suit, which is basically a pair of chaps. The G-suit's from the waist down. It's laced up on either side of your leg, and it's got a cord that plugs into the aircraft. So the tighter the pilot turns, the more this thing squeezes on your legs to keep the blood from flowing away from your head and you blacking out. So after you take off, they take you through a couple of G awareness turns. And the first one is sustain 4 Gs. And you feel this thing hugging your legs. It's like, this is cool. And the flight surgeons told you how to breathe, what your posture is supposed to look like, that tense everything up, lock your calves. Then they take you through a 7G 10-second turn. You're like, oh my God, the python on steroids, and it's crushing my legs. And so at the end of the flight, he takes you on a 9G turn. And I'm telling you, Clay, for a split second, I thought, I'm pretty badass because I'm handling this well. And then I remembered the guy 3 feet in front of me is flying the airplane, doing all that, and talking on the radio.
Oh, yeah. It's unbelievable. It really is. I mean, those guys, and it had to be really special for you. I mean, you did your time, you were in the Air Force, and you got the opportunity. For me, it was like really crazy. I grew up basically Millington, Tennessee, which is where the Memphis racetrack at, which I know you've raced at before, is home of what was the world's largest inland naval base. So I guess, I grew up, loving the Blue Angels, but got the opportunity to ride with the Thunderbirds.
Nice.
But for you, a military guy, an Air Force guy that got to do it, that had to be extra special.
It was almost a little like going back to your high school 20 years later. In other words, everybody's younger, but it's kind of the same thing, right? They were wearing the same uniforms. They were playing for the same team. And I got to tell you, I'm so glad my pilot, Derek Rout, I am so glad he's on our side because those guys just do some amazing things in those planes. Hey, so I thought your claim to fame in your hometown is like Playboy magazine was a big deal there. Oh, sorry.
Oh, it is. That's that was my daddy's claim to fame. He's got, all those issues stacked up.
If you just tuned in, folks.
Yes, and tell Jenna that we can arrange those to show up in California.
Well, if they're carried up by a divorce attorney, she'd be all for that.
All right, Jack. So I'm totally going to swap gears here, and this is probably a tough question for you. But what is your favorite part of racing?
Hands down, the people I've met. So I'm at the March meet earlier this year, and this is Bakersfield. It's a nostalgia meet, and I have to preface this. I'm horrible with faces. Now, I'm not horrible with faces like John Force, who meets 100,000 people a year, and they say, remember me in 1982? I had you sign a T-shirt. I'm horrible with faces in that the fusiform gyrus area of my brain doesn't recognize faces really well. I've always kind of struggled with that. So there's a guy 2 rows in front of me, and he keeps looking up at Bakersfield in the bleachers. And I'm looking over, and it took me 40 minutes to realize that was your 4-time top alcohol dragster world champion, Rick Santos. And I told Rick, I said, I want to tell you a story. I said, you want to know when my I know I made it when moment was in racing? I was still driving a super comp car. I was walking through the staging lanes at Pomona. Rick Santos walks past me and he says, how's it going, Jack? I said, the fact that you even knew my name, I thought was pretty cool. So fast forward 15 years and I'm driving a pro car. The fact that Roland Leong is a buddy of mine. I mean, all these people that I read about, Tommy Ivo and I'll email at 1:30 in the morning, and he'll send me pictures of what he was building in his garage in 1959, which, by the way, was a twin-engine, front-engine Buick dragster. And Don Garlitz answers questions like this about something that happened 60 years ago. Just the fact that these people even know who I am.
Oh, it is absolutely incredible. You were talking to Big Daddy earlier. I called him. It's been a couple months ago. Got him on the phone. I literally screenshotted it, and I thought, man, this is the coolest thing ever. I'm on the phone with Big Daddy Don Garlits, you know, and I screenshotted it and posted it because I just thought, man, this is unbelievable. You know, as a kid, we would go to Florida, you know, for vacation, and we would always stop at the museum. And to be able to actually have his phone number now, I mean, it's unreal. You know?
I think he blocked mine last week. So to give you an idea, okay, I was researching 1959 for my video series, and I've got all my notes right here. But I misspoke when I called Don. Don got burned really bad. He had just gotten a leather jacket. It was at Chester, South Carolina. He had recently put a supercharger on his car. It exploded in the lights, and his hands got burned so bad they wanted to amputate it. I needed to ask him a question about what caused that explosion. So I misspoke, and I said, hey, Don, when you got burned in Chester in 1956, and Clay, that's what he said, that wasn't 56. That was 1959. That was June 20th. And just then I picked up my notes, and I'm thumbing through, and it's June 20th, 1959. Like, that guy doesn't forget anything.
I don't know. Maybe one of these days I'll be able. I don't do dates worth a dang. I mean, I just don't. And you talk to him, and he spews these dates out, and he can tell you these things. It's just amazing the memory that he has and how he can recall that stuff so fast.
Ivo and him are just scary with how much they remember. So a few weeks ago, I went to Bob Moraviz's house. Moraviz won the '63 Winter Nationals in the freight train. Is one of the nicest people I know, and maybe one of the most noble people I know, if you know what I mean on that. And he's telling me about the Road Kings Car Club, and it had Kenny Safford and Bob Moraviz and Tommy Ivo and a guy named Don Perdome. I mean, they really produced some world-class drag racers there. And his ability to remember things blew my mind. Ivo will tell me, I ask him a question about something. He says, oh, you're in 1958. Wait till you get to 1959 and let me tell you what we did that year. I truly don't understand how somebody could remember 60 years ago to that level of detail.
Oh, it is incredible. I mean, you know, just, and they don't even have to think about it. You know, that's the crazy part of it to me. And I don't know. I mean, maybe, you know, we just have too much stuff going between cell phones, and I don't know. But
did Donna just dump all of her nuts and bolts out on the floor? Is that what that noise was?
It's actually one of my dogs trying to get under my legs here. But it wasn't the Playboy magazines getting dumped over.
You guys got some strange stuff going in Tennessee there, I'll tell you. But so listen, so I call Garlits and I say, Dawn, in 1958, I start seeing MT do advertisements for slicks with your car's picture. But a month later, I see a picture of your car with Bruce's slicks. I said, what was the deal? When did those change over? And he says, well, so when I ran 176 in Brooksville, Florida, and I thought I'm a hot shot, and I literally just read about that the week before. I said, right, in November 57. He says, yes, it was on the 10th. The guy, he knew exactly what day it was.
Unbelievable. So next question. Least favorite part of racing?
I think, well, obviously that's different to different people. There's a lot of drag racers that aren't people, and I feel bad for them because I think that's the greatest part of our job, and what makes our job so much different than every other sport out there is the amount of time we interact with the fans, not just before and after an event, but during an event. So least favorite's probably travel, especially now that I'm with the kids at that age where you want to be, or where I still want to be around them. Just having to leave and hop on an airplane and the TSA regulations and all that stuff. And can you imagine now with the COVID restrictions, when we get back on airplanes with masks and all that, it's going to add another layer of dimension. Yes.
And back to the Garlits and the memory thing and Bob Moravitz and you know, so I'm like, I've got a little story and I can't exactly remember, but it just came to me, so I got to go back to it. So I have a little Floyd Lippincott decal that he put on the very nose of my dragster. He put it on there. I go out and I cannot remember what year this is, so I'm not as good as Garlits or Bob or whatever. But
they remember the day of the month. Yeah.
Yeah. I go out and set the national record. He comes back and he is all pumped up. He's high-fiving all the crew guys, telling everybody good job. And he comes to me, and I'm like waiting on my high five, and he's like, I got there first, because his picture was on the nose of the car.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
If you have a minute, do you want to tell the listeners the Floyd Lippincott story, or I can if you want?
No, let her rip, buddy. This show is Jack's show. This is my play show.
Moravez sounds like a Latin or Spanish last name. It's not. It's Czechoslovakian. His dad was total old school Czechoslovakian, opened up an appliance repair shop specialized in Maytag. Bob had an older brother, and Bob and the older brother worked at the shop. Bob raced, and his dad said, you need to make a choice in life. You're either going to work at the appliance shop or you're going to race. When Bob won the 63 Winter Nationals, and I literally just saw video of that the other day, his roommate Rex is holding the trophy up in the winner's circle, and Bob is standing behind him just kind of off to the side because he wasn't allowed to race. Well, he kept racing, but he changed his name. Actually, Steve Gibbs came up with the name. It was a high school teacher he had, and they added something to it. So his pseudonym for racing, so his dad didn't find out, was Floyd Lippincott. One of his dad's bar buddies went to the races once, talked to his dad while they're having a drink, and he said, hey, I just saw your son win a race. That was in 1968. His dad never talked to Bob again or his brother for the rest of their lives. Pretty intense story. But Bob is one of the most amazing people you will ever meet.
Oh, absolutely. I know he comes and hangs out with you in Pomona. He comes, hangs out with me. You know, it is just unbelievable. So I want to get to you mentioned that you went through cancer, but I know that you have done a lot of work, a lot of speaking. Chemotherapy, myths or facts? Kind of tell everybody about that and I know you do a lot of work, but kind of some of the things you've done with that.
Yeah, well, so it just so happened that, anybody that's been through chemo knows it's not just the drugs you take for chemo. You're usually taking a drug to boost your immune system and other stuff. And it was a good opportunity to work with Amgen. We had a booth at the races. And I tell you, the great thing about that was it was almost like it gave permission to people to talk about not just their own health issues and journeys, but maybe they had a spouse or an aunt or an uncle or a kid that had it. And a lot of times you bottle it up, and it's not healthy to do that. So when we had that chemo myths or facts booth there, people would come out of the woodwork and just start talking about the things where they knew they were in a comfortable spot to talk about it. Schumacher Racing does an amazing job of supporting the Riley Children's Hospital. So when we go there, they always give us a choice between the cardiology wing, or I stay away from cardio, and the cancer wing. And I always go in the pediatric cancer wing. And I think that I can just speak with a high level of credibility because I've been through something like that. And I also think that when the kids see somebody that's still alive that had a bad cancer, I think just subconsciously it lets them know there's some hope there.
Absolutely, 100%. I mean, you definitely, you're not shy to talk about it. You tell people about it, and it does. It gives you hope. I mean, there's a lot of people that won't mention it at all. I mean, it's like it's something bad, but it's really not. I mean, we went through it. My sisters, Don and I, we went through it with Daddy, my mama. I mean, everybody has to deal with it, but it's pretty awesome that you went about it because you went through it yourself and make it where it's okay for people to talk about it, and it will make them feel better. I think that's incredible.
I talk to a lot of people. People email me or a friend will say, hey, my cousin's got cancer. Can you give him a call? I said, no, here's my number. They need to call me because a lot of times, especially men, they just don't want to talk about it. And I get that. So I said, have them call me because then I know they're receptive to talking about it. And I tell them, I said, I can't give you any medical advice. My medical advice is get a second opinion and write everything down on paper and take somebody in with you to be your advocate so you got your head straight. But I said, here's the thing. You're going to have those days where for whatever reason you think you're losing it, not just the health. You think that mentally I'm not going to get through this. I said, that's the day you can pick up the phone and call me. But if you don't want to call me, you'll never hurt my feelings. And it's weird because a lot of times, yeah, you ever get sick and somebody sends you a text, hey, I hope you feel better. And then 2 weeks later, like, dude, you never called me back. Yeah, I know. You said, I hope you feel better. You didn't say, I want to talk. People tend to make things about themselves under the guise of, I'm trying to help you. So if I'm going to help somebody deal with cancer, I'm here for them. I'm not going to make it about me. If they want to chat with me on a bad day, that's fine. But there's probably, I doubt there's a month that I don't talk to 4 people minimum, and sometimes it's 7 or 8. And it's nice to feel useful. I didn't ask to get cancer. It's just a fact of my life. I recognize some people would rather not talk about it, but if you do, I'm here.
Right, exactly. You've lived it, and you enjoy helping people. And it's not just in that. Infinite Heroes, kind of somewhat along the same lines. Tell us how that come about, and obviously, you know, you take the challenge coins with you on the race. You raise a lot of money.
Yeah, Infinite Heroes is a game changer. In a nutshell, there's 43,000 501c3 nonprofits designed to help our veterans. Some of them are more effective than others. Oakley did a ton of stuff with the military, and when people started coming back injured, they wanted to do more. The CEO tried to enlist, and they said, sir, you're 50 years old. There must be a better way you can do this. So they formed Infinite Hero, paid all the overhead, and the long-term goal is to have that organization stand on its own. But it's a wonderful way of taking the funds that you raise. We have an all-volunteer grant committee, and they look at programs that make a big difference. So, Clay, let's say that you and I wanted to start the Clay and Jack Mountain Climbing for Amputees program, which things like that exist. So if our program's successful, we spent $250,000 getting it started up. If it's not, we wasted $500,000. Infinite Hero doesn't do that. They look at programs that already work, take the money we raise and say, let's fund this so a lot of soldiers can go through, soldiers, airmen, Marines, sailors, and get back to whatever their new normal is going to be as soon as possible. To get to meet some of these people whose lives have been improved because of the money that we've been able to raise makes you realize a crappy day at the racetrack is still pretty darn good.
100% agree. 100% agree. And I mean, I think we can't talk about Infinite Heroes without you telling us a little bit about the lady that kind of helped you get going with that, and that would be Terry Chandler. I know she was special to everybody in drag racing, me included.
All right, I'm going to try to get through this without getting choked up. And ironically, she passed away on the 4th of July, and it's hard to believe it's been almost 3 years since we lost her. So Terry was somebody that was 5'0" with 80 pounds of heart. If you met her, you know exactly what I'm talking about. She was as sweet as can be and just wanted to help people have a better life. It started with the kids, with the Make-A-Wish program, and she funded that car, which used to be the car her brother Johnny Gray drove. Tommy Johnson was in the cockpit, and all the crew guys were Terry's guys from Johnny. And then she got wind of the Infinite Hero program. And initially, the first year, her and Dawn split the cost. It was a trial period, 6 races, and Schumacher and Terry Chandler funded it, and it worked awesome. And Terry says, I want to do this full time. And that was 2015. And then when we passed, her husband, Doug Chandler, who's not a drag race guy, recognized that Terry lived to be at the racetrack. That was her home away from home. Doug's a hunter and a fisher and likes hanging out at the airport. He's just that kind of guy. The races are a little loud and too many fumes for him. But as a tribute to Terry, he extended that for 3 more years. And this is actually the last year of the Infinite Hero funding. So I think I'm going to be fixing elevators next year. But I got to tell you, what a ride. I mean, if this is the last year I get to drive a car, this has been beyond amazing.
Yeah, Terry was awesome. I mean, it was not a stranger she ever met at the racetrack. And right. Me and Donna were fortunate enough, a few times we parked somewhat near her. We always tried to be very careful when we parked near her coach. We're in a motorhome and she's in a coach. Believe me, that thing was gorgeous. But we were lucky to spend some time with her occasionally, parked out in the motorhome area, and what a lady. not a stranger she ever met.
No, certainly, you know when people say they're one of a kind, she was one of a kind. There's just no question. And you know what? Her husband, Doug, is one of a kind. If you think about it, for the 3 years that he's extended the program, that's 2 complete teams. That's 20 people and their families whose lives he is profoundly impacted in a good way. And you know how we always say, I'm grateful to this person, I'm grateful to this person. And I don't know that there's enough words in the English language to tell the Chandler family how grateful all of us on these 2 teams really are to them.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty amazing. And my dog is trying to knock my laptop stand over.
I don't know what he's doing. Yeah, I think get the dog out of here. What, Clay, why don't you roll up one of your Playboys and swat the dog on the head?
Hey, those Playboys are not in this house.
Yeah, those Playboys are not in the house.
That's what you think, Donna.
Not yet. Not yet. Not yet. All right, so I'm going to continue on with my questions. And I saved these for you because you're very much a historian. And this is kind of a 2-part question. Greatest drag racer of all time, in your opinion?
Impossible to answer. I mean, it is. Like, what's your favorite flavor of ice cream? I have 10. Because, and here's the reason why. If drag racing only ever had one class, if it was just Top Fuel, boy, then I'd have to give you 3 different answers, right? And 2 of them would be Don Garlitz and James Warren. But we also had funny cars. So, I mean, John Force is in a class by himself, but I don't know if people really remember how amazing a driver Don Prudhomme was in everything that he ever drove. Like, he wasn't just a guy that went out and marketed himself. He wasn't just a tuner. He was a phenomenal driver.
Yes.
Bob Glidden and Warren Johnson were cut from similar cloth, 80 hours a week, and do whatever it took to win, and they showed it. And then you can even go down to the sportsman ranks. Frank Manzo has the biggest house in the world just to keep all those Wally trophies. So I could never answer that with one answer because there's so many people that are complete. Did I say badass? I guess I just did, didn't I?
You can.
And here's the other thing. As I'm reading, I showed you this earlier, 1955 Drag News, I'm seeing that first generation of racers who were tough. So, God, when NHRA came out with their top 50 on their 50th anniversary in 2001, that's a quarter of the list. I don't even know how you narrow it down to that.
I don't either. I don't either.
So same question back to you.
Well, you really kind of gave my answer, but if you tell me, all right, you got to pick one somebody for you, it is a hard thing. But for me, you know, the guy is Big Daddy. For me, it's Big Daddy because he was such a pioneer. He drove it, tuned it, built it, still doing it. But you're right. It's an impossible thing to answer because, you know, if you say greatest pro stock guy, greatest funny car guy, you're 100% correct. And on your Don Prudhomme thing, because I've been friends with Mike Klober for so long, and he's my crew chief, and I've heard so many unbelievable Don Prudhomme stories, not only about just things that Don Prudhomme's done, but driving the car. Mike said that he could tell you the most incredible things and get out of the car and tell you that the ring and pinion gear is about to break or the axles, you know, whatever it may be. And they would check it, and he was right. And I don't mean it was broken. He would say it's about to break because he knew. He could tell. He could feel it. And that's how good he is, you know. And so I always tell people Mike kind of, even though the only thing he's ever staged is his foot, and he's the one that says that all the time, he's taught me so much, but a lot of that came from him learning from Don Prudhomme, you know. And so I try to tell him, I think I felt this, or, you know, I try to do that because Don Prudhomme taught him, and if Don Prudhomme can do it, I want to be somewhat close to doing what Don Prudhomme did, you know, catching things.
Yeah, and NHRA has done the best job of preserving themselves for the years for drag racing. AHRA was a huge deal at one point. AHRA was a huge deal at one point. But if you ask any fan over the last 20 or 25 years, they're only going to give rankings based on NHRA because it's the one that survived and it's stayed the biggest because of that. So James Warren, who, by the way, made the top 50 list all-time of drag racers, won 2 NHRA national events in his entire lifetime. I'll tell you something else, too. Number 25 on NHRA's list, Tommy Ivo. I knew he won a lot of races, but as I started getting into my 1957 drag news and he was in his T, I start seeing him win. Then he got protested because the radiator was too short, the pickup bed was too short, and the engine was set back too much. And Tommy is the biggest practical joker on the planet. He built the biggest piece of crap tea bucket he could, didn't paint it, welded a hatchet in the trunk, put antennas with foxtails on it, went to the junkyard, bought the biggest radiator so they couldn't protest him, and went out and ran even faster and beat everybody. Then he put that engine in a dragster. That guy was winning. I mean, and remind you, this is when you could run every single weekend in Southern California. His name's in every paper. He was absolutely off the charts.
He is unbelievable. One of my favorite people. He'll come up to me at the races and say, the only guy in drag racing who smiles much as I do, you know, and every now and then he'll come with the, I like you because you're a little bitty guy like me, and you don't let guys like Doug Herbert scare you, you know, and he's like, that's me, you know. So I always appreciate, you know, him and his stories, and it's pretty cool. So I don't want to run out of time before I bring this up, and I'm going to put an image up.
It's not from Playboy, is it, Clay?
Well, look at the photo.
Ah, boy. Boy, do I remember that well. Father's Day in Tennessee.
Boy, do I, too. For me, I don't care what I win from here to the end of my career. Nothing will ever be bigger than that day. And you had just lost by like 4 thousandths of a second.
Don't rub it in.
3 or 4 or 5, whatever it was. Extremely close. And here I am, not believing that my win light just came on. Father's Day in Tennessee, all those things. And you literally had just gotten beat. I just put up another photo there. And what do? You jump over the fence and you come to the car and you lean in. And this is my version, then I want to hear yours because I was like out of it, just absolutely beside myself. And you're telling me, get your helmet off, get your gloves off. This is huge. This is a big moment. You have no idea how big this is. And I will never forget that. You and Ron Capps were absolutely incredible. And I think you both knew what a big day it was for me. And it's always very much appreciated, not only from me. Those 2 photos were sent to me just a little while ago from my sisters, who say it was the greatest day in our family's history. But let's hear Jack's story about losing the final round at Bristol and jumping the fence.
You know what, Clay? I don't remember that because Clay Milliken won his first NHRA Top Fuel final. So to frame it, I'm a historian of the sport. I follow the TV. You kind of get used to what the rhythm is. When a car wins, there's a winner's circle, and there's a certain amount of time, and then the show's over. So you stopped on the track, and I'm like, oh, he's going to be freaking out. And you notice this. There's a lot of well-intentioned people that make the moment more about them when it's somebody else's moment. This was not for me to make the moment about me. I figured the cameras were not on us. They're replaying the race. So I ran over. I said, give me your helmet and your gloves and get unbuckled so they can push you off the track so you get your full time in the sun. How many times have you seen somebody in a winner's interview and the first half of it, their helmet's stuck on, and it just makes it awkward? I wanted you to have your moment in the sun. And, I mean, you want to talk about a Planets Lining weekend. I just lost. Losing always sucks. I was really disappointed. And when your win light came on, all that disappeared. It was one of the best days I've ever had at the racetrack.
Oh, it was, I mean, I was just blown away. Obviously, your win was out the window because that's what I remember you saying, just, you know, get your helmet off, get your gloves off, you know. And I couldn't even get the car off the racetrack. In that second photo I'd put up, I think you were actually maybe grabbing the steering wheel, to be honest with you.
Yeah, you were still undoing your stuff. I said I started steering for you. Yeah.
I didn't take it as, I didn't even think about it that way, but all I know is something I'll never forget, and it's very much appreciated. It was incredible. Like I say, you and Ron both, and it was a heck of a day. And like I say, I mean, I could go win, which is something I want to ask you. So if I go win in 2 weekends, whatever it is, whatever race that's called, if we win the first race back in 2020, can you say you won Indy? I asked Tony Schumacher last week.
That trophy will say Indy on it. But here's the crazy thing. So I think we talked about this earlier today. The second Indy race, the first Indy race is going to be E3 Spark Plugs race. The second Indy race is going to be the Lucas Oil Summer Nationals at Indy. Like, I've got trophies behind me of winning the Summer Nationals at Topeka, winning the Summer Nationals at Englishtown, which was a traditional place, but it also was in York. I think it was in Columbus. Like, the Summer Nationals is getting around now. But could you imagine? We all have a shot to triple up at Indy. Could you imagine winning Indy 3 times in 1 year?
That's pretty crazy to even think about. It really, really is. So, yeah, you know what? I just got to do this real quick. So, you've got yours behind you. I've got the Bristol one right here. It's kind of cool.
Hey, I think you like that so much you went and got yourself another one not too long after that, huh?
I did, but here's the real truth. I have the Bristol Trophy sitting there, and right beside it, I have an IHRA Ironman, and the reason is
I think I know this.
You know this, so
yes.
I'm not, and I don't even want to get into this because you and I are going to do this, but you and I were preparing to do a video together when the whole pandemic hit, and it involved an IHRA Wally. It involved an IHRA Ironman, and hopefully when we get back to the West Coast, and there's a reason for that, Jack and I and somebody else are going to do a really cool video, and we're going to give you all the history of the trophies that we all want to win.
Yeah, that's a stay tuned part, because I think that's a phenomenally compelling story.
Yes, and I'll just go ahead and give you part of it. The reason that Jack and I are doing this, we were talking trophies one day, and the IHRA trophy, which I had to
time out. You're being way too humble. You're being way too humble. It was your pit area, and a gentleman waited in line to talk to you. He waited in your line because you're Clay Milk, and he says, I want to let you know, and then you take it from there. His name is?
Well, I don't even want to get into it because I want people
to
tune into this and watch it. That's for sure. But what I am going to get into right now, so every trip, and I tell this every week, and the people that watch this probably watch it a lot and they're tired of me talking about it, but every trip that Don and I take the motorhome,
we try.
We try. We don't always do it, but we will, to make our trips fun, as we're driving along, we'll leave on our trip somewhere, and we'll post it on social media. We'll leave what we call a fan appreciation pack. And, and it's something, a hero card and some cool stuff from the sponsors or whatever. And since this pandemic's been going on and we've been doing this DNC show, we've been giving away something to a fan that has watched. So the whole time Donna's been sitting here, it wasn't to make sure that I talked about or not talked about the Playboys. It's because every person that logged in to watch us tonight, she's been putting their name in a random name generator. And so I've got a cool Parts Plus Motorsport shirt, just like the one I got on. If you're a size medium, you might win this one. So a cool Parts.
Now, what if Hagen wins that shirt? I'm just curious.
What?
What if Hagen wins that shirt?
I have bigger ones.
Well, I think Matt's an extra medium.
He might like them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this around and point it at, let me find it there, the name generator, and Donna's going to click that, and we're going to see who is going to win tonight. Kimberly Stevenson. So Kimberly, if you're still watching, send me a direct message with your address and your size, and we will send you a shirt that you just won and a cool little Parts Plus strategy. This is something we've been doing that's a lot of fun, and we enjoy it. And Jack, man, I cannot tell you how much I appreciate it. And sorry about the last minute on getting you to come on. I was just like, woke up. It goes back to the pandemic thing, and it's like Groundhog Day. I woke up and I'm like, it's Tuesday, and that means we're doing the DNC show, and I got to ask somebody to come on, and I appreciate you doing it so last minute like that. But what I got to know before we do get done was surfing. You were going surfing today when we talked.
Well,
hard?
I'm still alive. There's no scars anywhere. Yeah, it was fun. I got a buddy. Our kids play hockey together, and he's a Marine station at Camp Pendleton. It's a little bit of a jaunt to get down there, but you're not battling 50 people for a wave, and I love it. I've always enjoyed surfing. It's kind of a chance to literally get away from the planet for a while and get some exercise, and that's cool. Yeah, and listen, here's the deal. Starting in a week, I'm not going to be able to do it probably for 4 months.
Yeah, you won't. That's probably true. I mean, I've already like wiped out every plan I had. Every December, January, I start making a calendar, you know, and after March 13th or 14th, whatever day it was, I wiped that away. And I just did it again. And when you start laying out the schedule we have in front of us, it's going to be pretty serious. We're going to be like World of Outlaw guys almost.
Yeah, well, and we've never had more than 4 in a row, and these are going to be concentrated in the summer. But here's the thing. I think we all hope to gosh that we're going to have 13 in a row. We're already faced with Seattle's off the schedule now, and we don't want to lose any more races. You know, hopefully the spike goes down. Hopefully we'll be allowed to have full crowds starting in August. And it's going to be hot and nasty at some of these races, and that's exactly what we signed up for.
Absolutely. I'm ready for it. You know, it was today almost 100 degrees here, and I work out. I'm not like Matt Hagan, you know, trying to get big like that, but I work out. And the other thing I said this morning when I realized it was Tuesday was that means it's cardio day. And Donna didn't hesitate. She's like, you need to go outside and run and just take off running. And I'm like, are you crazy? It's hot out there. And she's like, what do you think it's going to be when you hop in the race car in Indy in a couple weeks? I'm like, right. Good point.
So you went around to the back door and went in the air-conditioned lounge and sat down and read a magazine, huh?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, I'm excited. Yeah, I know how you feel. I mean, I just can't wait to get back in the car. And it's kind of unprecedented. I don't think anybody's ever been able to test the day before a race for 40 years. I think, actually closer to 50 years. I think 71 Indy tire test might have been the last time we were allowed to run the day before a national event there. And I'm glad. I mean, I think that was a lot of foresight on NHRA's part because we just need to go knock the rust off. Also, way less sportsman cars than normal, and the race is 1 day less than normal. So it's entirely possible the track conditions will be different. I'm not saying worse. They might actually be better, but they might be different.
I'm totally looking forward to it, and I'm totally glad that I do not have to tune these cars. I don't have what it takes up here. I love talking about it. I love driving them. I love everything about it, and I love working on them. But I do not have the ability to tune one, and it is. I think you're right. It's going to be a tuner's kind of race, especially if it's hot out. But also, if it's hot out, then you and I could really come into play on operating that throttle pedal.
But think about this. We're only going to get 2 qualifying runs at every race except for the U.S. Nationals where we'll get 3. How many times have you seen somebody pedal it on the first qualifying run? You're almost going to have to do that when there's more than 16 cars now.
100%. You're right. And, you know, and again, you mentioned being with a super team. Y'all are probably a little more ready for that than like our team because we're already, you know, making sure everything we've got is in tip-top shape, but we can't afford to go out and have to pedal it over and over again and hang the rods out, you know. So it's going to be one of those things like you got to do it correctly. And me and you both know it's not always easy to do. You know, sometimes, you know, you kind of get that jackrabbit foot when you blow the tires off where you need to just roll back into the throttle. But, man, it's really hard. It's really hard sometimes. And, and something we didn't talk about that you have been a part of is, you know, having everything right. And you did a lot of those classes with Frank Hawley, who's incredible with that sort of thing.
Yeah, and it's not just there's a race day pedal, and that is you get to the finish line no matter what. If you smoke the tires on Q1, you'll probably want to pedal it, but shut off about 600 feet. It'll give you an okay ET, and you just want to be away from that bump. Like there is 200 different scenarios that could play out here, and it's exciting because I think it favors the thinking drivers. The crew chiefs already have the toughest job in motorsports. It just became twice as tough because they have half as many qualifying runs.
100% agree. Well, Jack, buddy, we have spent an hour. This has been so much fun. Thank you, and I cannot wait to see you and I guess give you an air high five because I don't know how we're going to act at the racetrack just yet.
Well, no kissing until we've got a vaccine, I'll tell you that.
What I hope is we are both, just like that picture that I posted a minute ago, at the finish line at Indy in a couple weeks. But this time you didn't lose by 4,000. You won. I don't care about what the margin is, but hopefully you and I both are holding a Wally trophy at the end of that.
Yeah, I want to get a lot of wins. I want you to get a lot of wins. But the reality is once we get back to racing, the fans are the winners. We just got to get back to normal at some point. And it's hard to believe that now the watch is ticking down, and I'm going to be getting on an airplane in 8 days. That's exciting.
It is. It is. Well, folks, thank y'all for joining us tonight. I hope you enjoyed it. I know I certainly did. And we will see you next Tuesday night, which I guess will probably be the last one before I'm at a racetrack. But anyway, guys, see y'all next week. Thanks for tuning in. Bye, y'all.